morning. So it is 10 a.m. on the East Coast, USA, and actually the presenter is also, in fact, he is in New York. So every time I say New York time zone, in reality, I am not in New York, but today we have a presenter from New York. In fact, New York, or almost New York, New York. So before we get to our presenter, I would like to present also someone special. We have here Karen Linden. Karen is one of the X-Culture professors and is heavily involved in X-Culture administration, has organized all kinds of events, is working very hard on organizing the upcoming X-Culture Symposium in Italy, in Macerata. So hopefully we will see many of you there in July. And so welcome, Karen. So, and then obviously we have our guest today, presenter, CEO of the company, Yevhen Borodin. The company is called CharmTech, but the product that you're known for is called Capti Voice. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yes, right. And it's a unique product based on artificial intelligence and all kinds of IT solutions. So when you think about a startup, when you think about a company that can change the world, we always think of a crazy, a guy with a crazy idea and a bunch of very talented people on his team, and they're trying to do something where computers will do most of the work. Well, if that's your image, that's the company this time. So it's a very unique, interesting startup. And so the way it's going to go today is the follow, like this. Our guest will do a little overview presentation of the company, and we will, spend 10, 15, 20 minutes on that. If you have any questions, you can ask them several different ways. So I do see we have some attendees already in the webinar, and there will be probably more. So if you are here live with us, you can either raise your hand, and you literally have a button at the bottom of the screen that says raise hand. And if you do so, we will give you a chance to talk to the presenter. Or you can simply click on the icon called Q&A, questions and answers, and just type the question. We will see your question and we will answer it. Or you can type it in the comments. And those of you, especially those of you who are in Canada, the United States, Latin America, more likely than not, you're now in the middle of your lectures. And if so, if you cannot attend live, or if you're listening with one ear, you can send your questions by email. We will see them and we will also answer them. And I have prepared a few questions of my own based on the earlier emails, so we will get to those also soon. So now, without any further ado, I'm switching to Mr. Borodin, and he will talk about his company.
Thank you for the introduction, Vasil. I hope everybody can see me.
Yes.
It's a pleasure and honor to speak in front of you and tell you about our company. I'm going to switch to a slide deck here. Let's see. No, I don't share screen.
Yeah, we see the screen. Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to go to the presentation. So our product is Capti Voice. It's a personalized reading assistant. That's our vision for it. Our mission is to empower people to process information more effectively, overcome disabilities, language barriers, and make reading more interactive and accessible for everybody. So we're trying to be universally accessible, and we're trying to help everybody read. Here's our executive team. We're based in this beautiful building, which is a center for excellence in wireless information technology at Stony Brook University. And we've been at it for the last 7 years. I got a fantastic CTO, a very experienced product manager, a CFO. And as for me, I've been programming since childhood and learning English as a foreign language. I hear many of you are international students, or you're studying actually in other countries, but also learning English, I presume. And that's one of the things our product is helping students with. Mm-hmm. I was trained to be an English professor initially, but then I switched to computer science because I've been programming as a hobby and ended up getting a PhD in computer science. And then I circled back, and now I'm developing education software. So our company has been well recognized over the past probably 4 years. We got more than $3 million in federal grant awards. We've been recognized by the National Science Foundation, Department of Education, National Eye Institute, because of our mission of helping people with disabilities. Some of the notable awards include EdTech Digest, which named our product the best special needs solution of 2017. And I personally got the MIT Technology Review Innovator Under 35 award. And we've been featured in many publications and TV programs. And you probably saw Vasil has shared one of our recent features in Newsday about getting a $300,000 investment.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So what is the problem we're solving? Let's not solve the main problem, but let me show you what it is like in the K-12 education. At least in the United States, in the classroom, 10 out of 16 students are reading below grade level, which means they're struggling with reading comprehension. You got at least a student with dyslexia, a couple of students with dyslexia, a student with autism, attention deficit disorders, several students learning English, and then a few other students who are struggling for unknown reasons. That's 66% across all grades in this school, struggling with reading comprehension at their level. Only about 33% of high school graduates are ready to read at the college level. And the teacher is somehow supposed to help the students. Every teacher is a literacy teacher, so it doesn't matter what you teach. It will be math, but you're still responsible for making sure that your students are able to understand what they're reading. How do you do this? Everybody says differentiated instruction. It's time-consuming, frustrating. It's great in practice, but in principle, but in practice, you basically have to tailor instructions for each student. And you need to have the right tools to do it. That's what we're trying to do with our product. So our solution is a reading support tool. It helps personalize instruction for students of all abilities. It enables effective instruction, which means personalization, helps provide accommodations to students with any kind of needs and disabilities, maintains compliance because schools are required to make sure things are accessible for their students. It engages students and improves performance and generally helps them keep up and catch up with reading. Incidentally, we also replaced at least 5 small EdTech tools that teachers are using right now. So they no longer need to juggle multiple tools in their EdTech toolbox. As for colleges, the students tend to be more independent. There's still a fair number of students with disabilities, but there's a lot of English language learners, and in general, students are overwhelmed with the amount of reading. So if you were to use this product yourself, you would find that it would give you some more hours of reading productivity. You could be reading while commuting, just walking or exercising, revising with something for the class on the way to class. So it gives you a lot of possibilities. So a little more about the product. It is a multi-platform app and a web application that enables you to import any tech content from different sources, even from photos. Create text playlists and listen to them. Play adaptive vocabulary games to improve your vocabulary. Switch between devices. Do homework assignments, tests. You can actually administer assessments through Capti and look up contextual definitions and translations. There's a lot more in the works. We have several PhDs on our team. We're about a team of 20, actually. But with 4 PhDs, we are very creative and we have more innovations that we can actually commercialize. So Capti Voice makes reading and learning more interactive and engaging, and I guess showing is better than talking about it. So let me quickly show you a demo as soon as I can figure out how to switch out of the full screen mode.
So it not only reads the text, but it does all kinds of other things, right? Because first I thought it just simply sees the text and convert basically text-to-speech software, but it sounds like it does much more.
It does much more. Let me give you a quick overview. So here's the Capti working online. You got a playlist on your left. You got the text that is already loaded in it, and the very basic functionality. What we started with is the ability to listen to it.
The Aztecs lived in central Mexico. They migrated into the Valley of Mexico
Now, as you add to your playlist, it automatically detects the language. So if it's, let's say, Spanish, right, you just...
And it works in multiple languages?
It reads in
Los
26.
investigadores escanearon las fotografías.
It reads in 26 different languages.
Whoa.
How do you add content to the playlist? Well, you press the plus button, you choose your local file. We support about 16 file formats: Dropbox, Google Drive, OneDrive, Instapaper if you're using that. On the iPhone, you can also use Pocket. Bookshare, it's a resource for students with disabilities. Bookshare is our partner. They have over 500,000 books, but only for students with print disabilities. Gutenberg Books, free library with about 50,000 books for everybody. And web pages. Let's say there was this article that you shared, right? About us raising money. Well, I'm going to go select this window out of the way. Select Capti extension. Add this article to playlist.
You just added simply right to Chrome or Safari, I guess, in your case, right?
Yeah, this is Chrome.
Chrome, right?
But you could do this in any browser. And here's the article.
So it automatically detects what which part of the page is the article.
Yep, it doesn't. Yeah, you see, there's no ads. It's a clean article that you can now listen to. And if you don't understand some word because you're learning English, you can just
so you just click play and it plays.
Yeah, you click play and it plays.
Now, I'm sorry, I know you said that you're primarily designed, or the product is designed for students, but I'm going to be a little selfish here. So I'm an avid audiobook listener. In fact, I have a master status at Audible, and I listen to probably 50, 60 books a year. And so one of the problems that I face is that I would like to listen not only to the books that are available through Audible, but sometimes like to articles like the ones you show. So would it be possible for me to use your software for basically just listening to the text while I bike?
Absolutely. We have a ton of users who are not students. We have, or actually our lawyer is using it to listen to contracts.
To cases. I didn't realize that. I thought it was purely educational, but it actually sounds like I can use it also for essentially entertainment or for work.
Yeah, well, let me step back a little and tell you about our history. We started as a consumer product that was targeting people who have vision impairments. We're developing a screen reader for blind people. It didn't look anything like this. But then we realized it's a relatively small market, and we were naive to think that I wanted to commercialize my results of my PhD research. But we were naive to think we're going to develop a company that would be profitable and successful. So rather than close down, we thought of pivoting, and we thought of a way to bring a technology that was developed for people with vision impairments to the mainstream market. And Capti, with having the ability to have a playlist and be able to listen to anything you want to read, actually initially was just web pages. That was the initial idea. And then we started selling it to everybody. It was an iOS application, and what you could do is load any web pages and then listen to them on the go, in the gym, while traveling, exercising, commuting. And then we realized that a lot of our consumers are actually educators, and that's how we pivoted again to the education market. Because the consumers, they want to use stuff for free. And finding a way to commercialize, to monetize those consumers is not easy. Besides, you have a large sum of money ready for investment into advertisement. Because, initially we thought if we build it, they will come. But that's again, a fallacy that a lot of young entrepreneurs have.
Yeah.
You have to put a lot of money into marketing. So in the education market, it's a vertical market. You're going after schools and colleges. And at least the time that you spend to acquire a customer, they'll pay you back, and then it's a renewable license. So, you can use this to listen to anything. If I press the plus and go to my local file and let's see, find some of my reading materials. For example, here's a research paper that we recently wrote in Word. So Word, PDF, we support it all. So I'm going to import this paper. I will show you how to add web pages. Now, while the paper is loading, I can right-click anything, and use highlights, notes, definitions, translations. So if I can
Oh, you
translate,
can even do the translation right in the document.
yeah, and you can translate word for word.
Does it recognize one of the, I remember years ago, I was experimenting, Adobe's software was able to read PDF files, and it didn't work very well for the reason that it would read everything. And so like you would have the headers, the page numbers, and it just reads everything as if it's one text. So does your software recognize which part is the actual, article and what is the, kind of meta text or whatever you call it?
Not yet, but that is something that we're thinking about.
And another question, again, being purely from the entertainment point of view, can you regulate the speed at which the text is read and the pitch of the voice?
Not so much the pitch, but if you go to voices,
you have different voice, right, yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
you can choose from multiple accents, multiple languages.
Nice.
Accent, there you go. You have British accent.
Hi, I am Brian.
Right,
This
right.
is my voice.
And yes, you can control the speech rate.
Perfect. One of the problems I run into when I get a book, audio book that is read by a male voice actor, when you listen to it, I usually bike everywhere, so I listen while I bike, and so the ambient sounds seem to have roughly the same frequency as the male voice, like every time the car drives by. So you can listen. Female voice is much easier to understand when you're outside on the street. And so sometimes some of the apps allow you to actually change the pitch or choose the voice. So it seems like you have enough choices there. So,
right. So here's what happens if you do a translation. If you translate a single word, we actually do some analysis to figure out in which context the word is used. And then you can actually add it to your word list and listen to the translation. And we'll translate in the same part of speech. So let's say you select the word developed. Right, so we give you infinitive and we give you the past tense. And we also look for word combinations that are meaningful. So let's say if we do the word enormous, see it also picked up enormous palace as a meaningful word combination. And sometimes this changes the translation. There's a built-in word challenge game that you can play to, I guess, again, improve your vocabulary. It's an adaptive game that generates questions directly from the text that you're reading. And it presents you with a set of questions that test your understanding of the word, again, in the context.
Uh-huh.
And it even picks the possible answers from the same text. And look, see, this is a plural form, and here regalos is the right plural form, and the other ones are also in plural. So it's not as easy to guess.
Now, whose engine is that? I mean, did you actually, like you said, you have 26 languages, you have the voice. Are you using somebody else's engine and then just provide the shell? Or is it also your development, the actual, what do you call it, the back end coding?
No, the voices are licensed. We have several providers, and we can use the voices that are already in your computer.
Right. Okay.
And if I were to switch to, well, there's more features. You can keep track of user performance, which is important for schools, progress, engagement, share this playlist with the entire class, which is a big thing in schools. So here's Capti on the iPhone. And here's the articles that's being synchronized. On the iPhone, you can also press this plus button and select camera. And if you want to read something quick, you just do this.
Wow.
Right, I'm going to use this photo. And
so it's going to automatically recognize it?
Yep.
Wow.
And it's loading right now, but I did this before. So here's the letter. And if I switch to my computer, here's the letter.
Oh, that is impressive.
A little bigger, and yeah, now it's all text now, and I can listen to it.
Please join us as our guest.
So this is, think about being presented with something like a worksheet or some handout that the professor gave you. You can just take a few photographs and read it on the way to your dorm.
I truly wish my English teacher, when I was learning English, I mean, you can tell I have an accent, but I think if my teacher gave me a program like this and I could listen to the native speaker read the texts, I guess it would have been a much better result. So, yeah.
Yeah, it engages multiple senses if you're listening to it.
Right. You hear the pronunciation and everything.
Yep, you understand. A lot of students actually, especially in Asia, are learning to read, but then when it comes to speaking or understanding, they can't because they never connected those two skills.
Not to mention that not all the letters are, representing the same sounds. You can assume that you see the letters and you know what they sound in your language. If you come from, for example, the European continent, and you assume that you know that E sounds like this, and then you pronounce it that way. But then turns out in English it's pronounced differently, or whatever other language. And so I guess when you have the option of being able to listen to any text as you learn it, it would probably improve the pronunciation a lot compared to when you just simply assume that you know how to pronounce those letters and use your native language sounds.
Yeah, and as you can hear, I have an accent as well. I grew up in Ukraine, and I was studying to be an ESL teacher before I switched to computer science. So now I'm actually wishing I had a tool like this before, and this is why I'm developing it. We're trying to be universally accessible and help everybody read. And
very impressive.
Yeah.
So then, I'm not sure if now is a good time to ask some questions, but we do have some questions about then. So who are your customers and who are the decision makers? Because it sounds like you have multiple customer profiles, and it's not always that the end customer actually pays for the product.
That is correct. So our customers right now are consumers who can pay for themselves. They can use the product for free, or they can pay us a license fee, where it's a freemium model. So I think it's $20 per year. Actually, I think it's 18 plus additional in-app purchases.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to schools, these are people from usually administrators. Teachers usually don't make purchasing decisions.
Right.
They are the influencers. They're the champions, but they have very little money. And what they need to do is to either refer us or go to their administrator, who could be the director of, let's say, ELL, or special education, or disability support center at the university, tutoring center, potentially even athletics, academic affairs, instructional support.
So when a school buys your product, how does it work? Do they only use it on the school kind of computers premises, or do the students then can use it from home as well?
Oh, they can use it anywhere. So
if for example, if the school where my children go, if they became one of your customers, then my kids would be able to install that thing on their computer, on their phones, for example, or computers, and use it at home as well.
Yeah.
Nice.
They get a license. They can use it anywhere. We sell a number of licenses. So we charge about $4,000 per school per year, or about $10 per student, and that really varies based on the number of students in the school. So you can get really cheap for a large school district or a large university. In fact, for
$4,000 per year for the whole school on average, right?
Say it again.
$4,000 per year for the entire school, right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not much, actually. That's not bad. And so, as I understand, again, it can be used in multiple languages. So it's not only for learning English; it can be also used for learning Spanish or whatever other language, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you a little more about our marketing and who we're targeting. So we are actually trying to sell this on a site-wide license, because there's the use cases is very wide. It's not just for students with disabilities. It's not just for English language learners. So briefly about the market. There's at least 130,000 schools in the United States, probably about 6,000 or so universities and colleges. And if we just sell it at those prices I told you about, there's at least half a $1 billion market in the United States. If you go globally, education market is at least $5 billion. And of course, the consumer market is much bigger. 10 billion is just a rough estimate, but it really depends. So is it at least 1.5 billion people in the world are learning English.
Right.
It's a huge market. Now, how do we sell it? We generate leads. We do weekly email campaigns. We go to education conferences. We do press coverage, webinars for educators to get them notice us, raise their hand. We're experimenting with referral partnerships, reseller partnerships. We go to lunch and learn events. And, in case of X Culture, this could be a crowdsourced lead generator for us.
Right, exactly. I'm even thinking if I can go back to the product again. I apologize, but I'm a potential user here, so it's kind of hard for me to stay impartial. But so I teach my own courses often online, and so I provide video lectures to my students so that they can watch the lecture. But what they share with me is that in many cases they don't really care that much about the video part. They just want to listen to the lecture. And the beauty of that is that they can listen to the lecture or any other materials when they, for example, commute to work or to school, or when they work out in the gym, or they work, cleaning the house. And so if I were able to transfer, for example, my textbook into the audio format, or my lecture notes, or any other readings I assign to them, what would happen is that students who otherwise wouldn't read them, now they can, because they don't have to invest any extra time. They can literally do it while doing something else. As I said, cleaning house, working out in the gym, jogging, biking, going, driving. And so this way it can also improve the student academic success, just because, as I said, they may not find the time to sit down and read, but listen, I guess you don't have to use any extra time on that. You can do it while doing something else.
Exactly. Multitasking. You got to do chores, clean up, do dishes, do laundry.
In fact, makes it even more fun because, some of those tasks are boring. And so here you listen to something, time flies faster while you're doing something useful.
Yeah. And you could read first and listen later.
Right. Before the exam, perhaps, to refresh.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, our accountant is listening to text code. That's as boring as it gets. Class needs to read it multiple times. So he reads it visually. He listens to it several times while driving in the car, and it sinks in. So when we work with customers, we first get them interested. We set up discovery calls, demos, like I just quickly showed you. We talk to them about the problems we're solving for them. We try to hook them with free trials and paid pilots, and then we sell them an annual software as a service license. So the way it works in the K-12 sales, K-12 sales, and to some extent the colleges as well, is that if you look at this little graph, you got the months from January to December and different types of activities that schools do. So decision, whether they're going to buy the product or not, is between January and somewhere between May. March is when they do the most decisions. So right now we're in the sales cycle. This is the right time to be selling our product.
Right.
Then the schools make budgeting decisions. By end of May, they have to finalize the budget for the year. This is the way it works in the United States. Then they receive the money, typically July 1st is the federal, or actually the state funds that they get, and then in October 1st they get the federal funds. But the majority of money they get from the state. By August, September, they release the purchase orders. And then it slows down again. And the fall is when you acquire the leads just to get the contacts. One of the major promotions we're doing right now in New York State, because we got this BOCES contract. BOCES is Board of Cooperative Education Services. There's 37 of them in New York. They sit on top of multiple districts, like regional organizations. So now New York schools can purchase our product and get a financial assistance from BOCES, where up to 88% of the price will be paid. So we thought this was a wonderful opportunity to promote ourselves in New York. So we launched the Capti Loves New York campaign. So we're engaging right now about 50,000 teachers. We have a database of teachers. They're English language arts, foreign language teachers, social studies teachers, English teachers, special education teachers. In 1 week, we got about 500 teachers from about 300 schools sign up already. We're giving the product away to them for free through the end of the school year. And then we're turning
a question related to what you just said. I'm looking at the emails, and we have a few questions that just arrived. Geography. So where do your customers reside at this time? Do you work internationally? And if you're open to working internationally, do you have any reservations as to the geography, or you're open to work in just about any part of the world as long as the customers are paying?
We are looking for new markets. We're open to any geography. Currently, our iOS application has been localized to about 10 different languages. Probably half of our consumers are in China. There's a lot in Europe, South America, obviously the United States. In terms of education customers, we have a few outside the United States, but the majority are in the mainland. We're in 25 states already. So, and it's colleges, it's K through 12 schools. So Cornell University is one of our clients, for example, and a number of other big name schools.
There is also one question. Would you be open to renegotiating the price down for countries that are so-called developing countries?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. We believe it's important to personalize it for any countries, and there's probably more things we need to do to effectively enter markets. So outside the United States, I think the two main use cases would be productivity for reading, the disability support for people and students with dyslexia, vision loss, ADHD, and obviously the biggest one, I think, is the English language learning.
I wouldn't discount, people like myself who will just buy it for the entertainment.
Absolutely,
people spend hours and hours every day commuting, for example, and it's so much better to listen to something that is actually relevant to you, what you chose, than just to music on the radio. At least, I know there are many people who think that way, and I'm definitely buying it. The $20 a year, it seems like it's something that I'm definitely, I need it. So I didn't know that a product like this exists. I thought it was only for education, but I'm sure I'm not alone.
I'm glad to hear you're excited, but from a business point of view, I think you're an outlier.
Am I? I don't know. Look at the Audible. They have literally millions of subscribers. And I don't know. I kind of suspect those people are not listening only to, books. They would be happy to listen to, like you said, news articles and stuff. So especially when I can, before I leave, for example, work, on my way home, it sounds like I can add a few internet, articles that I find on the internet, add 5, 10 of them, and then just, something to listen to on your way home if you're driving or on the bus or on the train. So as I said, it seems like it's much more effective to listen to what you chose than to whatever's on the radio, today. If it really works just the way you demoed, I know I'm buying that. $20 a year, that's nothing. So for something like this.
Yeah, well, I like what you say, and that was our initial thinking as well, that there's a lot of people who want to read, and not everything is available on audiobooks. In fact, the majority of things is not available on audiobooks.
Right.
And why listen to podcasts if you could select, listen to what other people want you to read, as opposed to pick what you want to listen to and control it.
Does it work with the social media by any chance? Can I listen to my Facebook through it?
Well, you could send, if there's a link to a news article, you can send it to Capti from Facebook.
But it wouldn't go. And another one, again, something that I could never figure out. Presumably my phone should do it, but it never works very well. Emails, like when I bike, is there any way to connect directly to my email agent and kind of read one by one so I can, next, if I don't like it, or if it's something, is it something that it can do?
Not at the moment. As we're moving closer toward our vision of having an assistant for reading,
right,
this will definitely be one of the use cases. But right now, if you think about it, email, a lot of people write emails with there's a lot of context involved. And
right.
It's not as easy to control. Because you need to do a lot of analysis to be able to read that effectively.
Yeah.
So for now, we're staying out of email and focusing on the main use case. And, if we could find a way to reach people like you, we would already be millionaires. Unfortunately, you're not easy to reach.
Yeah, I can imagine.
We're to schools right now.
Yeah, I don't know.
A lot of educated people, they graduate and then they become you. That's
I know at least several friends, in the book clubs that do prefer the audio to visual, just because visual requires that you sit down and do nothing but reading, whereas audio you can do it at the same time with something else. And so this way, when I said I read about 50, 60 books a year. That's without investing any single extra minute. It's all while I bike, while I commute, or when I clean house, or do things like that. So I would never be able to afford, to spend this much time to actually just sitting down and reading. So
absolutely.
A few more questions. I'm not sure if you have more presentation, because I do. Yeah, please maybe finish, and we have several questions that we need to
This
ask.
is the last thing. So I want to talk about the mission here. Should you choose to accept it, our goal is to find the most receptive market and prove our business model this year. And I hope that you'll be able to help us. Now, should you choose to accept it, you will be able to use Capti for your personal reading productivity.
Right.
You will learn how to conduct customer discovery and usability interviews, do market and operation management analysis, and actually help us market and sell education technology products. Maybe you can find another market for it. You will also help your fellow students be more productive. If you sell this to your college, your students will have access to this product. And actually, you can get this for your friends. We will make this as a special promotion for you.
Right.
You'll help improve literacy and access to education for potentially billions of students. Help English language learners study more effectively and help improve lives of people with disabilities. This big social cause mission is what keeps me up at night and gives me energy when I want to give up and watch TV.
Right, right.
Instead, I sit in front of my computer and do some more work.
Yeah.
And if you help us sell, you can earn a 10% commission and get a shot at an internship and employment at our company.
And I would like to comment a little bit more on that. So many students sort of ignore that option, but many do take it on and try it. And so those who try, and all of the companies that participate in X-Culture this semester offer this option. So I strongly recommend that you actually try to get a contract here. And it's not because you might want to help the company, even though a company like this, obviously, they are trying to save the world. So they're doing something socially important. So if you help them, you're helping the world. But even if you don't care about the company, the reason you should try to do it is because it's a good experience. Soon enough, you will graduate and you will have your own company, or you will work for a company. And so promoting a product will be one of the things you will probably be doing. And so there is no better way to prepare yourself for that than to try to do it, for real beforehand. And so now you have this opportunity. And if you succeed, that's something that will look very, very good on your resume. So when you will be applying for jobs and when you will say that you facilitated an international transaction, for example, there is this American company called Capti Voice or Charm Labs, and you were able to facilitate a contract for them in, say, for example, Brazil, or I don't know, China, or whatever the country, you will look so much more attractive as an applicant for that job than everybody else. And so this is your relatively easy and cheap opportunity to substantially improve your both experience, skills, but also resume. And so I would recommend that you try that. I mean, here you have customers that are all around you, like schools, like universities. So you don't even have to go somewhere, just basically stop by your school and see, who makes those decisions and talk to them. And so if you do, as I said, it will be one of the most useful experiences you've ever had. Because, reading a chapter in the book, it's not the same thing as actually trying to do it. It takes the same time, but the value of trying to do something like this is much, much higher.
Yep. As I started as a computer programmer, I thought it was difficult to code. Then I became a team leader, and I thought, okay, well, it's difficult. I became a researcher and said, well, programming is nothing. I mean, it's the research. Well, you turn out if you're actually trying to create a product, research is probably 10% of product development. Actually making the product happen is a very difficult thing. Well, then once you develop the product, you realize actually sales is the most important function of a company, because nobody cares about your product unless you can sell it. Right.
Or at least inform potential buyers about the opportunity.
Yep.
A few more questions. Competition. So who are your competitors?
Right now, the two competitors, the two groups of competitors, I would say, are the support tools that give you some text-to-speech capability, sometimes some reading, writing capability. There's Kurzweil and TextHelp, probably the two biggest competitors in the United States, but none of them have even 10% of the market. And I would say that their products are great, but there's very little intelligence in them. Other features I showed you, there were at least several machine learning algorithms right there in Capti. And the other group of competitors would probably be publishers, but they're focusing on their own content. They do have some text-to-speech capability, and they try to build in assessments and some engagement, multimedia, but they're all working with just their content, and there's many of those publishers.
Mm-hmm. And then in terms of the challenges to growth, so what would you say is the biggest challenge your company is facing now? Because you obviously have a great product. So what prevents you from conquering the world?
We don't have sufficient funds for advertisement. To really sell into education, you need to have a large inside sales team, and we only have 3 people right now. Getting known is the most challenging thing. Getting the credibility. We've built up a lot of credibility, but there's still, we need more manpower.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And one more question, payments. So what forms of payments do you accept? And then one of the challenges when you go international could be that I assume now people, individual accounts probably just pay by a credit card. But one of the challenges most of the companies that work with Xculture face when they go international is that it's not always possible, or not in all countries, people use credit cards as commonly as they do in the United States. And then the question becomes, if there are individual users interested in your product, let's say in Ukraine, Brazil, how would they pay? Are there systems that you can use, or have you thought about that? Have you faced the challenge, or maybe you have a solution?
Yeah, that could be a challenge. I mean, we on the iOS we accept payments via the App Store, so I know that people in Ukraine are struggling with that. On the web platform, we accept PayPal. Mm-hmm. I think that's still not available in Ukraine either. Right?
Yeah, they can. Well, I think they can make payments from Ukraine, but cannot receive or something like that. There are some restrictions.
Okay, well, if they can make payments via PayPal, you can make payments on our online platform.
Yeah. Well, in some countries, we face the problem where you have people who have the money, like even, paying the registration fee for Xculture. There are many countries where they literally say, I have the money, but I cannot make a payment overseas. You literally have to get some sort of a permission from the central bank to pay to the United States, even though it's a small amount. And then some say that, I do have the money, I can pay it, but I can only pay basically cash. So there is no easy way for me to make an online payment. PayPal doesn't work. I don't have a credit card. So there are all kinds of different systems of that, or challenges of that kind. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's probably not our market right now.
Yeah. Well, who knows? I guess, going back to English as a second language, I would imagine that, as you said, China already is your customer, but probably the rest of Asia, maybe even some countries in Africa, maybe Latin America, probably Europe. So why not?
Yeah.
Karen, do you have any questions? Because we're running out of time. We have another webinar in 15 minutes. So, but last minute questions. So I'll check the emails meanwhile, but I don't know, Karen.
Yeah, it's a fantastic product, and I've got a lot of ideas, so I think the students will be very excited about approaching it. Have you thought about doing subscriptions? Let's say through North Carolina, we have NC Live, and all of the universities, the colleges can log in and receive those services. So it's research, but also products like Mango, which is a language tool. So have you approached maybe system-wide sales in that regard?
No, not yet, but that's what we're looking for Xculture to help us with. Discover those markets, discover the new channels. We are registered in Texas through a system which Texas schools can purchase our product. We'd like to learn more about the way North Carolina works. This is one of the issues with the fragmentation in the education market. As I said, in New York, for example, if you have a contract with BOCES, which matches the cost for schools, this becomes so much easier sale because it costs a lot less for schools.
I wonder if we can ask you for some sort of like demo accounts for the couple of months for our students and professors, maybe even more so for professors, because we have like close to 200 professors and who knows how many thousand students this semester. I'm not sure if it would be easy and technically possible and cost effective, but I wonder if there was a way to perhaps, at least for those who are truly interested, if they can request some sort of like a free demo so that they can use it for a few weeks, a few months, and maybe become paying customers later on. Is that an option?
You mean for your university?
Well, like for example, like Karen here, myself, other professors, if we wanted to use it kind of, for our own courses just to see how it works. And if it works, I don't know, maybe I'll go to my dean and convince them to get it for the whole school. Or
like a 2-week demo.
Like a 2-week demo or something, or like a semester demo.
How about this? We will create an organization account for each university and college participating in X Culture for the rest of the school year.
That would be nice.
You get every single person in your college or university, for any student participating.
That's even more generous than I was expecting. If it's possible, I assume you do have some cost to that, obviously, the processing power and everything else. But if it was possible to do it, at least for those perhaps who specifically requested, something's telling me that, something that unless you try, you may not fully understand how great it is.
Yep.
All right. Well, that sounds, let's discuss how we can do it and, what would need to be done here, what information would you need and how do we do the sign up. But I think it might be something that would help us better understand the product and may lead to actually more paying customers down the road for you. All right. So I think we're pretty much out of time. So if you guys have any questions, those who are either watching live or will be watching the recording later on, you can always send the email and we will forward it to the company. And obviously, it's a complex and sophisticated product, but definitely one that deserves not only to be sold for profit, but also, the world needs it. And so I think hopefully with our help, we will be able to help this company grow.
I'm looking forward to working with you.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. So we will be then in touch in a few more weeks with another webinar. And then meanwhile, via emails, and then at the end of the project with the actual reports, which we hope will contain a lot of interesting ideas. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.